Good morning, Southern California, AM 1220, KHTS. Your host, Fred Arnold, on the Valley Industry Association Business Spotlight. Joined by two professionals. You have a real treat. We got two for one here. Patti Handy. Patti Handy is the author of How to Ditch Your Allowance and Be Richer Than Your Parents. For kids and for parents. Some parents ought to read that. Yes, and a mortgage professional at American Family Funding. And I got Michael McGrath. Michael McGrath is a wealth advisor, EP Wealth Advisors. Now, Michael, we had you on a segment before, and we talked about your 4 children and the fact that that's how you got into it, was really understanding that you need to start building wealth. And so I want to just throw out there, my kids, I have 2 in college.
Yeah.
And when the children were first born, we put $1,000 in a savings account.
Yeah.
And $100 a month invested for the last 18 years, 17 years, 15 years, and 10 years.
You're buying their books now.
Exactly.
For it, right?
And I'm about 50% short.
Okay.
But let's talk about strategy on
Right.
college savings plans.
Yeah.
Different plans, and then I'm going to switch over to Patti and ask her philosophy on that.
Yeah. Well, the basics that people talk about a lot are 529 plans, which is, the 529 is just the Internal Revenue Code number, but it's really designed for grandparents because you can accelerate gifts without paying tax. It grows tax deferred, and then you get a tax-free withdrawal if you use it for college education.
So can I send this to the kids' grandparents to hear?
Yeah, right. Quick little email,
Because we haven't gotten that offer yet.
By the way,
Well, the thing I found, because my oldest is in college, so I'm right with you, is that if you have assets that are available to the child, then if you're filing the FAFSA form, that counts against you dollar for dollar. So I've even worked in strategies because we do a lot of financial planning at EP Wealth. So a lot of strategies that may or may not involve this, but including putting more money into retirement accounts because it doesn't count against you as much. So you actually could qualify for some more help. So FAFSA is a bit of a strategic move in and of itself, and how you fill it out. So that's a big thing. I've encouraged a lot of kids, especially if 4 years and multiple children is just not available to the family. Junior college is a good thing unless they have to be an engineer, they have to go to Cal Poly SLO, and that's the only place that's different. But a lot of kids don't know what they want to do. So I think COC is a great option. It's a great school. It's inexpensive. You get your gen out of the way. Most people can cash flow that, and then you've cut that cost in half. So there's a number of ways you can deal with it on the cost side as well as the savings side.
Yeah, it could be potentially $100,000 savings if you went to a private school.
Yeah, absolutely.
By going to a community college. Patti, let's talk about that. You addressed, I'm sure, some of this in your book.
yes, and I'm going to piggyback on that for a minute because my son wants to do engineering.
Okay.
And he's going to go to COC, get his gen ed stuff, and he wants to go to SLO.
Okay.
So we transfer over. We still saved a ton of money taking COC route for a couple years, and then transfer over, and you've got 2 years of the SLO versus the 4. So you can, even though you know what you want to do, take the COC route. So fantastic idea. The other thing I wanted to kind of piggyback, I think it's a fantastic idea once kids start to work to open a Roth IRA. And start that very, very young and let that grow, because as that compound interest starts, and I'm sure you've seen it, that is, they retire millionaires.
Well, one thing too, going back to the segment we had before about things you talk about values with families, is you're teaching the child at a pretty good age. Not when they're like 5 when they have no idea what you're talking about, but when they're 15, 16, 17 and they have their first job, they get in the habit and the discipline of saving. So the Roth's a great vehicle, and then they start to see, oh, I've got this much now. Oh my gosh, I've got this much. So you try to develop that along the way. And one last thing, sometimes you obviously have to have loans sometimes for school. I'm trying to keep ours as low and as infrequent as possible, but sometimes I'm going to put a piece of the loan in the kid's name, so they can build some credit along the way. So when they get out, they've got a little bit of a credit score. So because a lot of these kids come out, they've never had really a loan because they've been co-signed by mom and dad or something like that. So they go get a first car, let alone a house, first car, and they're paying 12% interest because they have a horrible, non-existent credit score. So you're trying to build a little something. There's just little things you do along the way that can really help them not only through school, but beyond.
Well, one thing that I think we ought to just touch upon in the short time we have is your son or daughter getting a job. Because then they can actually qualify for that $500 credit card, which I don't think is a bad thing.
No.
Right.
Because they can learn how to properly use it.
Manage
But
it, for sure.
your philosophy towards jobs, Patti, when you wrote your book.
I think they should absolutely get a job as soon as they can. I'm all for, before they can work physically, they can go out and get a little entrepreneurial job. Walk dogs, do something, to earn some money. Once they can get a job, absolutely, because they need to learn how to manage the money. Once
Yeah.
they learn how to manage that money, those tools like we talked about, and those saving early and getting the credit card, learning how to pay it off, all that's huge. And those are the habits that.
And there's job skills. I mean, like my kids were swimmers. So which they obviously inherited from their mother. If you look at me, I'm not a swimmer. But because they liked swimming, they went and became a lifeguard. Well, they have to get certifications to be a lifeguard. So it's almost like getting your degree in sort of a model. Say, well, if I get this, then I can get this job. And they get paid better than they would working at.
That's a hidden gem. Both my kids are lifeguards with the city of Santa Clarita.
Okay, so you know the game.
It was a hidden gem that it's a program that teaches you so many life skills.
Right, CPR trained, everything else.
Yeah, all that, and some discipline, because you can't be on your phone when you're sitting there watching kids swim.
Right.
There's just a lot that comes with that.
For sure.
Which is really important. Well, good times.
Yeah,
Appreciate you coming in.
the opportunity.
The 6-7 minutes went by fast, but
Right.
Patty, those want to reach out to you and get your book?
661-618-1789.
And your website for the book?
Teens, with an S, cashcoach.com.
Great. Michael,
Fantastic.
those want to reach out to you?
Yeah, 661-505-3162 or McGrath@epwealth.com.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, Patti Handy, author of How to Ditch Your Allowance and Be Richer Than Your Parents, and Michael McGrath, EP Wealth Advisors. Hope you enjoyed this edition of the Valley Industry Association Business Spotlight. This show is Fred Arnold on AM 1220 KHTS.